Hi and welcome to another episode of Top Volts, and today we're going to be looking at this Scalextric Lotus C82, first released in 1966 from their 7th edition catalogue. They're wonderful little models. They're more on the more delicate side of the vintage Scalextrics. As you can see, you know, there's very sort of thin plastic areas and whatnot, and also like the rear drive shaft and pinion set is very fine, very compact as well, so lovely neat design. But as you can see, we've had a little accident with the front steering. Whilst playing with this, my young daughter accidentally stepped on it and snapped the left hand front wheel off, which had the sort of spigot that was holding it on there is completely come detached. So what I really need to do is replace this front section. So I've managed to find a second-hand front section, which hasn't got the complete set. It's got it's the majority's there and it's in good condition. It's just we're going to have to transfer some of the components from here and transfer it onto the other steering rack. So what we'll actually do, we'll get into this, open it up. We can also check the motor over to make sure that's functioning as it should, and possibly give it an oil and a clean if needed. Check all the cables and the connections and whatnot. The braids on this probably do need replacing, but we won't do this in this video, but we will tackle this on another video. So let's open this up. Okay then, let's open this up. So our first job will be to take this bottom section of the chassis off, which is held together in three points. So either side you have a tiny sort of retaining clip here, retaining clip there, and one in the center there. So what I tend to do is take the back ones off first, just so gently just pulling it. As you can see now, that's loose. With that being loose, you can carefully prise that off, just like that. So as you can see there, that's what it was clipped to there, just there on the chassis. So looking inside, the motor looks to be actually very clean. So we'll just lift this out. We can have a look on the other side. So once again, these have this lovely hinge, which is sort of hinges from this point there, which just allows you to basically gain access either side, but with the body giving it a little bit of stability while you work on it, which is absolutely brilliant. It's one of my sort of favorite sort of designs of the early Scalextric cars. But it all looks to be good. So if you can see inside there, these are the brushes. So just lift it up slightly. You can see there's plenty of meat on that. We'll have a look around this side. Yep, that all looks good as well. Actually, it doesn't look too dirty either. Perfect. So we'll just slide that back in. Okay, so moving on to the front steering, we've got, so you can see the mechanism. So as it runs around the track, it will steer left and right, which is great. And it looks good as well on the track. The only downside from it is incredibly fragile. Even when you're handling this, you feel as if it's quite loose, very light plastics. So wouldn't take much of an impact to lose a wheel, as I found. As you can see, the diameter of that sort of spigot, you could say, that was holding that wheel on it's probably 1.5 to 2 millimeters, if that. So it's not very strong at all. but then I suppose they're not designed to really take an impact, you could say. Maybe to a degree, but not huge. The guide looks very good on this, so it will be good to retain that. So what we will do is carefully release. So I use this tool, and I like to get it just under that front point there. So you've got a retaining clip just here. So I will just slide that under and just carefully just pull that up. Just like that. So loosening the back one, you can now slide it off the front one. And as you can see underneath, it's been retained from here and here. So you've got 2 points which hold this front steering column down. And from the underside you can see where the connections are made to the braids. So our next job will be to remove the guide, which is actually held on not by this point, but by a section under here. So what there is almost like a split pin, you could say, which is going down and is splayed. So we need to very carefully pull this off without causing any damage. So once again, if you can just get just underneath it and carefully prise it up. Now I've got under it and it's starting to come away. There we go. Let me just give this a gentle pull and you can hear the click. So there that is. And it was being retained by this sort of spigot, you could say, with a raised plastic which literally holds it in there very snug. So taking our replacement steering column, and this all looks to be in nice condition. Maybe a clean wouldn't go amiss. Okay, so we will place our guides back on, being careful not to pinch the cables. And what we want to do is, if I try and get my hands out of the way, is that you want to align that up at the same time. So there's 2 points to line up. So if I carefully place that into position, and give it a gentle push. You don't want to push it all the way, you just want to go part of the way and then guide this section in as well at the same time, because you don't want to force that in until it clicks and not have that in place, because then you would have to remove this again to then locate this. So it's just very good to make sure you get the two in line with each other, and then you can press the rest of the way until you hear a click. Perfect. Okay, and that seems to be functioning perfectly. Okay, so we'll replace this back in. So if you feed the front in first, you can feel that is actually now holding down, and then just press the back. So what you're trying to do is not force the two in at the same time, because you're just going to put unnecessary pressure on the plastic and possibly break something. So feeding the front section in first and then pressing the back until you hear a click. Perfect. So that's perfectly back in place. Like I mentioned, we need to replace these braids. So I'm just going to bring them either side and feed that under. So just like that, it will just, keep those cables to either side. If you retain that, you can see there's plenty of movement. Okay, so replace the bottom of the chassis back on. Feed in the front on first, one at a time. So once again, don't push the two down together. If you press the front one down first, that's all working perfectly. And then press the two down on the back. Brilliant. Okay. That's working great. And what I'll do is I'll just remove the tyres from these wheels and place it on the new ones. And they're still fairly soft actually, which is great. Once again, just be careful with these front, because as you can see, even there it's very loose, you know, which is the way it was designed, but it just makes it for being quite fragile. Perfect. Okay, that's great. There is a great bit of detail on here. The way they've kind of got these sort of velocity stacks sticking up above the engine at the back, and the way the exhaust. You often find these do snap off. So if you can find one with the exhaust still in place, you know, it is a very nice touch. Okay, so the only thing left to do now is that we'll run it up a bit, let the motor just run in after we've been messing around with it, and just make sure it's functioning properly. Okay, so we'll run this motor up. I'll keep the volts down initially, and then I'll just build the volts up. So let's fire this up. So I'll just lift the back wheels up ever so slightly. And then I'll start to increase the volts. That's perfect, and that's working just as it should. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you've enjoyed it and possibly taken some tips that you might find useful. As always, if you have any tips or advice on this car, this Lotus C82, which is always welcome, and it's great to have somebody else's view and knowledge, especially on these sort of vintage cars, to keep them going, because we should keep them going. They're part of our history and what we experienced growing up. So I will see you at the next one. Thank you very much.